to the Trinity Force Podcast. Yo, it's that Triforce cast beaming straight to your home. Grab a beer so we know Pone ain't drinking alone. Send an email, a quick tweet, just pick up the phone. Leave a message at the beep if you're a creep, watch your tone. Discuss the meta game, patch notes, whatever helps your stats most. Obi Pone Kenobi is your last hope to snatch gold. So grab your headphones and join in the fun. We'll try and force in some jokes and some cringeworthy puns. Yo, we can make it together, people. Trinity Force Podcast. These boys are second to none. Now that's the end of the intro. It's time we begun.
And there we are. We are live, episode 467 of the Trinity Force Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for listening. This is a six-man show this evening as Mitch, Todd, Punch, Dom, and Santana have all joined me to talk about patch 7.17 in unison. Hello, friends.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
There's so many people.
Sub dogs.
We're just man, where's Sean? Where's our 7-man episode?
We'll get there.
Have we done that?
Stars
Oh wait,
will-
we did for like 200.
Yeah, 200 had like
something
12
crazy.
people or something.
Maybe
I
if we
wasn't
get a
that
shorter
wrong,
patch.
but-
If we get a smaller patch, maybe we can get more people.
We can each have more opinions, less content. That's what we've got this episode, guys.
Yeah, we have so many people that I don't have an overlay for it because I've never expected to have 6 people. So then we have the shitty thrown together overlay. If you guys are out there listening, which obviously you are because you can hear my voice, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TForce Network. Go check it out. $10 a month gets you 2 Champion Select podcasts. For those of you that don't know what those are, they are in-depth discussions about specific champions. Mitch is the host of that series, and he is going to be recording with Echo and Camille this month.
With both of those champions, like I'm talking to the actual champions for this one. It's gonna be crazy.
You know, I'm the copy
actually,
editor,
tomorrow
and
night-
Mitch is always the one that jumps over your grammar stuff.
I know, he does. It's just, and I'm used to it.
Which is crazy, and I probably shouldn't. But yeah, we are going to be recording at least tomorrow night, or tomorrow afternoon, which would be Thursday. For those of you listening, we will be recording Echo, so that should be out hopefully by the weekend. And then I think early next week, we will be recording Camille with Hurtis Leah. If you remember her from the Alawi episode, she'll be coming back. So look forward to those.
Punch remembers Hurtis. She is.
Oh,
forever.
yeah.
Yeah. Also our Vantage League
nightmares.
stompings, I guess you could say too.
Still have nightmares about that one.
About the tentacle.
Malawi tentacles just invade my dreams. Like, no, leave me alone.
Are you sure that's not
Let
for
first
other
blood me,
reasons,
please!
Or
No.
Could be multiple reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to deny that there are other reasons too.
To the best of my knowledge, we only have one weeb on this entire podcast.
that's me.
Yeah.
And I'm damn proud of it.
That's
Death to weaves.
All right, let's talk about the patch notes because they're really short and we have too many people on for it. Oh, actually, before the patch notes, I want to do something more League of Legends discussion here. Every week I have a weekly challenge. And generally, I forget to tell you about it on the first of the week, so I always tell you on the end of the week. But you listen to this podcast come Friday, so you'll have the weekend to work on it. This week's weekly challenge is to get to level 2 1 minion before your opponent and all in them, or zone them from the upcoming wave. This should teach you a lot about how to play laning phase. We've talked a lot about this specific challenge on the podcast previously, and it's a good exercise in understanding how many minions you need to get before you hit level 2, understanding how trading works, and really it'll just get you in that first 3 to 4 minutes of laning. This could also propel you to do better in those 3 to 4 minutes and then set a precedent for the rest of the game. So again, get to level 2 1 minion before your opponent and all in or zone them from the wave. And once you have done this, once you've done this, go to our Discord and let us know. You know, we can come talk about it.
I was going to say, it might surprise you how effective that level 2 all-in is. Or the alternative outcome is you have a very bad level 2 champion and you just get shit on. But one of those two things will happen, and you'll learn.
Yeah, I remember that as like a thresh main for a couple seasons, was the knowing when you're going to hit that point and trying to push it early, like before people knew about how to set that up, and it kind of became just like a push fiesta of get to level 2. But like that walking up and being right in range for being able to throw Flay into hook was just so nice, because you were like, hey, I'm a level up. You've got only half the skills we do. In bot lane, it just feels so much easier to pull that off once if you can get that advantage. And obviously it hits twice as hard if you get it reversed against you.
And the classic Lucian level 2 power spike.
Oh, yeah.
Lucian,
The trick is to play champions that don't need a level 2 power spike. Play Braum. Braum doesn't. He's got a power spike at level 0.
Jesus. But you are never level 0, Dom.
Yeah, that's how good he is.
Brom's just always strong.
Uh-huh.
That is that is his champion, right? He is the strongest, or one of the strongest. He holds a goddamn door for a shield, for fuck's sake.
Invulnerable door.
Right? Well, let's talk about
Man,
patch
he punches a lot.
7.17.
Yeah, he does. And kicks.
Garen used to punch the shit out of people, but they
Yeah, he
took that
did.
away from him.
Was it that? Why they do
animation?
It was just like a random auto attack he would do. Like there was no rhyme or reason to it, but it was super sexy.
I love that when he's like got a sword and then like gets out of range of really where a punch should be, but it still connects because of where his actual range would be. I think that's fantastic.
Adam is so
Punches
unhappy
air,
right
person
now.
dies.
Just waiting for this.
So
Just waiting for this
unhappy.
conversation to die. This
It's never gonna die. We could
Terrible.
go
Hey, what
on
patch are we
hours.
on, Adam? What patch just happened? Or
Thanks,
is happening?
Mitch. Thanks for the segue into the patch note discussion. Patch 7.17, which let's talk about top lane. Urgot got a change in this patch. His W Purge now refreshes the duration of the locked on debuff, preventing cases where Urgot would switch targets partway through Purge's duration. Which is a gigantic buff to him because
It really is.
you don't lose your W target.
Yeah.
Which was probably one of the big. I think I remember
Yeah, that-
watching people play it, and they just hated the fact that W would not keep locked on to the person.
Yeah, it gives you a little bit more leeway in terms of like if you get a locked on is something you can trigger with either your Q or your E. I guess your R I think as well, which is a bit more. I mean Q and your E if you're talking about like laning, that's when that happens. So like if you let's say you hit a Q, but then you waste a bunch of that time of locked on of the debuff, like that's very nice where you can walk up and not have to like be so obvious with your I'm a walk up now because I hit my Q and come into any CC or any abilities you have, and I can maybe play around with it and then use W to refresh that buff and be a bit less one dimensional of a champion. So
That
that's
makes
pretty.
me think-
That's I know you guys are saying like that. That seems like such a small change that maybe people will overlook, but that's actually pretty huge.
It makes me think of like the second portion of Lee Sin Q. Like you land the first part and then you have this window, and you know, really good Lee Sin players will not always activate it necessarily right away. You can use that time to wait for other cooldowns to come back or wait for your teammates to get in position. So basically Urgot was very two-dimensional and now he has options.
He needed him. He was like, he was not doing well. And almost to a point where it wasn't even fun to play because of shit like that.
I still think he's kind of clunky, but yeah, this definitely helps him a fair bit.
So, Disdain, his E. If Urgot casts Disdain during Purge, but fails to toss a champion, Purge will now resume firing for the remainder of its duration a bit earlier than before. The lockout was 1.375 seconds. It is now 1 second flat. So you get a little bit longer on your W to resume fire, or a little bit shorter of time before your W resumes fire.
You start shooting faster,
Yeah,
There you go.
Quality of life change.
or shooting.
And our fear from...
Also, like one in whatever. It's not. It's my point wasn't important. Go for it.
I'm just trying to make sure that Mitch is not lagging hard because his camera's lagging, but I don't know if his audio is.
His audio doesn't seem that bad.
Thanks.
Maybe.
Oh, dude, it's like 4 seconds. Yeah, this is bad.
Okay, maybe not.
Which is going to be great for...
Shit. All right.
It's going to be great come MP3 time when that has to be all spliced together and made work. So
Have fun.
yeah. Our Fear Beyond Death slow duration and reactivation window is now 4 seconds from 3 seconds.
Yay.
So
Again, I mean, it's like the Lee Sin type thing. That was a really good comparison time.
Yeah.
Right.
It just gives him a little more window to play around, wait for cooldowns, teammates, etc., etc. Although I guess if you're gonna execute, you're just gonna execute immediately anyway. But
Right. There's just more time to
Yeah,
do
there's no-
damage
there's
to
the-
get them to that threshold.
yeah,
Yeah, you're getting more time there. That's a bit better than the E change is kind of. I think it's smart because nothing has like a 3/8 second modifier. Like that's such a weird amount of time that they decided to lock something out. But getting another second of slow, because if you use your ultimate, you weren't getting a whole lot out of it unless your team was ready to follow up or ready to engage on a long range skill shot that doesn't move you there. So getting another second to do that damage and then be able to reactivate a really pretty powerful execute and then hard CC afterwards, I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
What I want to say about the changes is that old Urgot used to have this interaction basically where he would tag you with that lock-on device and he would just spam you with Qs and like you couldn't do anything. Like you would just have to stay out of range. Now his range isn't necessarily as big as it used to be. But if he gets the lock on to you, ever since that purge change with the refreshing the duration of it, it's pretty much old Urgot again. If you're a hard melee and you walk into range, like you pretty much get dominated for free. You really can't. There's not really a I hate to use the word counterplay because it sounds like a buzzword, but really, I mean, you have to wait until you're not locked on anymore. Or you just take free damage. I played against Hashinshin today as Garen top lane, and until pretty much level 11 without jungler assistance, like. I was like safe to live if I played around the lock-on, but I could never be aggressive. So if you're like a hard melee, you're probably going to get shut down early.
Yeah, and just looking at the stats right now, it seems like that's pretty much the case. His currently only winning lanes are Renekton, Wukong, Garen, Nasus, and Poppy, all which are pretty hard stuck melee champions that, in the case of Garen and Nasus, have a hard time gap closing. So I can see that playing out in the lane for sure.
I have not run into an Urgot that played well. Does he transition well into the late game, or is he kind of almost like a Renekton type comparison where he can dominate really hard in the early game, but you got to just use the fact that you shut down your opponent to your advantage because eventually they're going to scale better?
Yeah, I mean, he did get a lead on me early because I didn't play super well against that oppression. And in the mid game, he was shoved up to my turrets, and really he would have just taken all of my towers, but he's really immobile, and my team was able to rotate and just catch him out. So it seems like a really big weakness of his. He seems more immobile as a split pusher than most tops. But I did notice when we started team fighting, Urgot was a monster in team fights. You seem to really get a lot out of the shotgun knee passive in team fights because there's usually a target on all sides of you. So it's really easy to just keep the pain train rolling. Whereas in like that split push, like you have that one target, but I don't know, the lack of mobility, it seems like he's not a great split pusher, but a strong team fighter.
Yeah, and also just the way he builds right now. You see a lot of Cleaver, Frozen Mallet, which isn't exactly the best split push build unless your name's Gnar. and the rest of his items are very tanky, so he plays out a lot better in the later stages, just grouping and soaking a lot of damage and just getting in the front lines rather than I'm going to play like Aurelia and try and take all these towers on the side lanes.
Let's move on to the jungle, shall we? Woo! Hecarim gets a change in this patch. His devastating charge. The duration no longer ticks down during Onslaught of Shadows charge. Onslaught of Shadows being his R. Additionally, Onslaught of Shadows, his R, the fear duration now scales based on how far Hecarim has traveled with his Spectral Riders. So 0.75 at close range to 1.5 seconds at max range. But so these changes, do they solve, I guess they don't really solve anything, and
they don't do anything.
I think they do make Hecarim a little bit better. I think the biggest thing now is like Hecarim was already really good at chasing people down, but you can engage from further away you know how Fiddlesticks has that thing where if you don't see him coming, he catches you by surprise and he wrecks your whole team. Since you have a bigger fear duration from further away now, I think Hecarim kind of is like Fiddlesticks in a way now, where if you just don't see him coming and he gets that long duration fear, like, it's almost like landing a good Orianna ult.
Yeah, but the difference there between like Fiddle and Hecarim is Fiddle can 100 to 0 you off ult and like a spell. Hecarim won't per se.
He's still an initiator.
He initiates for the team, but it's not that constant. Like, if Fiddle ults me right now, I'm just 100% dead. It's more, okay, I'm feared. Hopefully, I can get out of this.
And because his durability is sort of built around that draining, not the draining, but the life absorption element and everything, rather than actual stats. Like that's why he's kind of suffering compared to his contemporaries like a Mumu and that type of thing. Which is kind of weird because it is a tank meta, but he just needs too much damage in order to make the the drain part really useful, and then even then he just pales in comparison to someone like Warwick.
That's because Hecarim falls off pretty hard right after out of mid game, unless you are snowballing really hard. Because like Trinity Force does really well on him.
But I've seen Hecarims that are snowballing really hard, and then all of a sudden they just drop off a cliff and are totally useless.
And that's more or less what I'm getting at. It's like you can't with Hecarim, you can't rush right into a Bomby Cinder, into a Cinder Hulk, because then he has nothing but some CC and no extra damage, and it's hard to rush into Warrior because, like you said, a lot of his stats. He doesn't have the stats that other people have because they're tied into the drain mechanic. So he's in this really weird spot where the games are going a little longer and there's more tank on the field, so he's not allowed to be the disruptive force that he was in previous metas.
It's kind of funny because like he is a tank that has to build, or he plays like a tank, but he's building damage items. So he is like that lone tank that survives when the junglers are really focused on the fighter types. And when it's a tank heavy meta, you would think that he would do really well, but he's actually not, because items are not working in his favor at all.
Yeah, because he's a Trinity Force builder, it's asking a lot, because he's just going to get outpaced by the tank junglers just because their items are naturally cheaper. I think when was the last time they touched him? Because I'm trying to remember when he was super popular. Was it the beginning of this season?
He was super popular at the start of the season because of Courage of the Colossus.
Right, that's right. And then he got nerfed, didn't he? Oh no, he hasn't been touched this season.
But Courage got nerfed.
Yeah, Courage got nerfed. Oh, he got touched 6-15, and that's when they hurt his clear a lot, and that's when he kind of dropped off because they dropped his base attack damage and rampage. So I mean, He needs a little bit more love. I wouldn't mind giving him like half of that attack damage back just to kind of help him clear a little bit faster. But yeah,
but then they'll turn around and take it away
sure.
next time, like the fighters are back in.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying like with preseason coming around, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take a look at Hecarim out of the jungle and be like, hey, you could probably use a little bit of something here.
Maybe they can do something for him other than just like a straight damage buff. Like, I mean, we were talking about his base stats. Like, they should just take a look at his base stats. Like, that really means a lot for a lot of classes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just give him a base 80 buff again.
Not even that. I think Hecarim's problem is that he can't afford to build damage because he's not tanky enough, like by default. I think if they increase his base health just a little bit, it would open up other build paths. I just think, I don't know. That's what I think.
Well, I think what they're doing here kind of helps with that, just by giving him utility. Yeah, item woes aside, like this doesn't help with his build path, his current item build path, where he needs to build damage to be effective. But falling off through poor scaling, this can help with that, just by providing more utility for his team. Like we talked about how he's got under half a second of possible CC in a mass AoE area for team fights, but E is pretty helpful too, since now E is not going to, or E will not fall off when you cast E into ultimate. You'll still have that E to knock whoever your ultimate target is back to your team. So both of these things very help him out a lot with ganking and initiating for team fights in the mid and late game.
E gives you move speed over time, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So the duration doesn't take down. So what if you activated E and then used a max range ultimate to build your E up during your ultimate, and then you still have the full duration, and you can like chase somebody down really hard.
Yeah, you could do that too
after entering a fight. I mean, that would be like a new trick, right?
I'm surprised people aren't building Righteous Glory on him instead of Dead Man's. But no, I'm not a jungler, nor am I a Hecarim player.
I mean, Dead Man gives you health and armor as opposed. Oh wait, no, they changed Righteous Glory. Sorry.
Well, regardless of what it is, the Hecarim did get changed, and so he's out there. So if you are a Hecarim player, you may be happy with those changes. Let us know if you're a Hecarim player, and let us know how you feel with those updates. We'd be interested to see. Gargoyle stoneplate has had a bug fix where the metallicized active forgot to remove Cinderhulk's plus 20% bonus health multiplier when calculating its health increase. Cinderhulk's multiplier always applies after all other health modifying effects, meaning metallicized was benefiting more than it should have.
Well, I debated even including that one in there just because it was a mouthful and it doesn't even make a lot of sense the way they originally phrased it.
It was just giving more health than it needed to.
Yeah.
Bug fixes.
But this is way more than a bug fix. Like, this was like the example that's listed in the doc, if you guys are watching like on YouTube, like it's saying he was like people are getting 240 bonus health or more bonus health than they should, which is a kind of crazy number when you think about it, because that's I don't know what, like
An auto attack
500 240 health is an auto attack to a tank.
from an 80 carry.
That's
No,
not
not-
okay,
'cause a
no,
tank
God,
already is-
Jesus.
A tank with Gargoyle Stoneplate already has a ton of armor.
Yeah, no,
No,
but like
I-
that's still, regardless, that's a crazy amount. Like, oh, okay, then the other side of that is imagine that versus like another tank. Like that's like a whole like spell rotation against
Right.
like in a noodle fight.
Also,
That's-
it was more than that too, because if you think about the two main abusers of Stoneplate, Cho'Gath's the obvious one. Everybody kind of, at least I forgot about it, was Jarvan, whose W scales off, health, and that's a lot of extra health he's getting on his W shield now from Stoneplate too.
This is only a bug that applies to Cinderhawk, though. Like it's you know what I mean. Like it could at max, it was affecting 2 people a game,
Sure.
and it's probably wasn't even affecting that many. It was maybe 1 person a game, and not until you have Stoneplate too. Like it, I think you guys are overblowing it just a little bit, honestly.
It does matter though. I mean, Jarvan and Cho'Gath are super meta junglers.
But we've had bugs before though, where like people are missing huge chunks of damage on abilities and stuff. Like it's in that same realm. Like it's important that they fixed it, but I don't think it was like swinging games or anything.
Oh no.
I think
It's
there's
not a bug that was the beginning of the season where he was getting total AD off his passive, which was hilarious.
I don't know. I think it's very different than like a situation where you're losing damage versus where you're gaining a bunch of damage. I know like 240 health doesn't seem like it's not gaining damage for a lot of people, but when Cho'Gath's like ultimate true damage, like you get a much easier threshold to hit when you pop, because I think a lot of people were popping Stoneplate and then just chomping somebody pretty easily. Like that threshold going down is going to hit his win rate a good bit more than you might think.
It's a Cho nerf, which I still think is needed, but
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out.
So, more changes in this patch as we move on down to mid lane. Zed has been changed. His base attack speed going from 0.644 to 0.651, and Living Shadow duration up to 5 seconds from 4.5. I know Santana had something to say about Zed.
I like Zed a lot, but I was really hoping that the initial PvE change went through, which was the 5.5 seconds on W, because then you got to do 2 E's on one shadow. Right now, you get 2 Qs with 1 shadow with a little bit of CDR, and you lose like all your energy. But it gives you those harass windows. The attack speed matters because I know some Zed players were taking an AS Quint, so they could get all their minions under tower, because Zed has probably one of the best autos under tower with his execute on passive. But it makes Bork a more enticing option, and with all the Ardent Censer running around, its base attack speed buffs aren't something to be like, it's not a big deal. It could matter a whole lot.
I just laugh because 0.007 is such a tiny amount to have it to talk about.
But the amount of times where I've been like,
oh yeah, no, I agree with you completely. It's just
minion, yeah.
in the context of it, outside anything else, 0.007 is such a small number to have a conversation about.
Right.
Yeah, I think Zed's like right on the edge of being super strong again.
It's never fun when he's really
I
good.
love it when Zed's meta. It's so much fun. I mean,
I don't like it.
right now let's have Zed be good, and Kassadin's good too. So
Yeah, fuck
Yeah,
that.
enjoy it. You can take mid lane for me. I don't want it anymore. Zed and Kassadin are good.
I have been playing mid lane.
All right, let's talk about Draven. Passive League of Draven. The adoration stacks lost on death are now up to 75% of the stacks from 50%. The base gold and champion kill has been decreased to 25 from 50. Overdue nerfs for the snowballing effect, but I don't think it really pushes Draven like.
I don't like this change, actually. I don't think that's the way to hit him.
I don't think Draven needed to be nerfed. I'll be honest.
I think he needed to be nerfed a little bit, but this, like,
I think Death Dance was the item that needed to be nerfed, dude.
yeah,
Draven's
I mean,
fine.
it's more like now Draven players are not going to be doing the things that Draven players want to do because they're going to be worrying about losing the stacks. Because now it's a really, really big hit. And I just sort of... Like, I thought that was really unique, that Draven players were just really incentivized to go all in on stuff and everything. And if you're worried about his ability to do that early on and everything, then maybe hit the numbers a little bit or hit the items. But, like, attacking this part of it to me sort of seems like punishing the wrong or attacking the wrong part of Draven.
I mean, what I will
I don't know if
say
you need
is
to
that-
worry about. I don't know if you need to worry about Draven players changing the mindset that I need to get this kill before I die. I think that's going to still be a strategy for most Draven players where I can kill this guy and I'm getting ganked. I'm going to go for the kill because that's just what you do, and that's the correct play for Draven. So I don't see that part changing.
I mean, it doesn't technically make him weaker as long as until he's died at least once, other than the flat 25 gold nerf, which is like not that significant. I think the more significant nerf is the 75% stack loss.
Yeah.
So you just have to try to make sure that you get a kill in an exchange. Like if there's that skirmish, that fight, like you got to go 1-for-1. You don't live like it's blood or glory, or what is it?
Yeah, to that point, blood and glory, maybe. Yeah, to that point, it might make
Glory,
Draven players more aggressive. You know, it's just.
I mean,
because,
we're looking at different parts of it. I'm not looking at the like, oh, we're getting ganked, let's turn this into something. I'm looking at the stuff that leads up to those gank type situations, and I'm worried that now Draven players are going to be less willing to do that type of thing because they have a lot more on the table.
I think passive or less aggressive Draven players weren't going to have success before this change.
Who are passive Draven players? Like that seems kind of like counterintuitive.
I had one the other day. It was
Flavor.
not fun.
They're out there.
I'm gonna play juggling games and I'm gonna have a great time with it.
You get nothing for my juggling game. Right. That makes sense.
Right.
Well, you know what? Talk about playing a champion you get nothing out of. Ezreal gets a change this patch where Mystic Shot.
This is big.
This is not
It's
big.
not big.
This isn't big at all. This does nothing.
Really?
No.
You think Mystic Shot ratios is not big when it's his always ability?
No,
I
it is.
literally think you could almost give this like a 1.4 and it wouldn't matter because this just isn't his meta. You'd have to nerf every other ADC on the patch and nerf
So
rapid fire static shiv before Ezreal's even talked about again.
Mystic Shot, the total ratio went up to 1.25, a total attack damage for 1.1. So it is total attack damage, but it's okay, everybody and their brother who's out there in the League of Legends sphere has heard the entirety of the Ezreal discussion because after these changes hit, everyone and their brother talked about Ezreal. It's been all over Reddit. They talk about changing him to an energy champ, and then everyone just comes down to the fact that mirror mana just sucks. Ezreal is the only one that has to spend 900 gold in early game to get a fucking tier and then come back to lane with no combat stats, and then he gets.
Do you just lose like 150 gold?
Yes.
You just like, hey, I sold it back and then bought it
I'm
again.
used to the old cost from a long time ago. Yes, 750 gold, but still, 750 gold is what?
Two long swords.
Two long swords, yeah. You get no combat, so that's really what it comes down to. Everyone knows it, and if you're denying it, it's because you just want Ezreal to be good, and you don't want to blame the actual reason.
Well,
So
what I would say though, I think Mitch is like right. I mean, it is his most important ability. Like you buff the signature ability on any character, and they're going to be better as a result. I think that maybe a 0.15 buff isn't enough, but I think what you just said, Adam, basically they should. I think buffing the total attack damage ratio actually does make sense. Maybe even buffing his base AD a little bit, knowing that he does have to invest in that tier early might be the way that they need to go.
To use some of Riot's terms, too much of his power budget is allocated on the attack speed steroid that's built into his W right now. And Lancever actually made a really good point in Slack when we were discussing this a couple weeks ago. It doesn't even fit him thematically to have this selfless ability built into the kit of a champ who's sort of defined by being really only interested in himself and kind of a selfish character. But that attack speed steroid is not doing him any favors because he has to work really hard to get it for himself. And I think in most situations, it's like there's way too high of a cost to get that attack speed steroid from his W on himself. And like that's what's kind of hurting that champion more than anything else, if you ask me.
And on top of that, I also was reading something or a poster or whatever, and they're very comfortable with when he hits Muramana T-Force. So like that's we're cool with that power spike, and they don't really want to touch it. So they're in this awkward place where the meta sucks for him. it sucks getting to his 2 item power spike, and by the time he hits it, he's usually behind so far that it's really hard to claw back.
I do like that. So kind of like with Corki being kind of a meme in terms of the last couple worlds
Fuck
cycles.
that
There's been like Corki comes back, like he just suddenly comes back in the meta right about worlds time, and I actually kind of like that Ezreal's not getting that treatment. Like if this change doesn't end up being that strong for him, they're at least pushing him from bottom of the barrel, but still being like, I would say that one of the most popular AD carries ever. Just in general, like people play Ezreal. Like bringing him back up is not a bad thing for Riot or for players who have played. Like he's not a difficult champion to understand how. Like to get good at him, he's a lot more nuanced than just that. But like pushing him back a little bit at a time is a much safer option than buffing him so much that he just defines the meta real quick and everyone hates it because Ezreal that's the strongest AD carry in the game is not a good thing for pretty much everybody else.
Ezreal's also that weird case where even if he's like the strongest AD carry at the top tiers, his win rates are usually go lower as you go lower because he's so Q reliant, and just a generalization,
He's
the lower
like
the
Lee Sin.
elos, the harder Qs are to hit, or just people have trouble aiming them, and that's a big part of his kit.
Right.
So he's always kind of been there. But yeah, this is like the first time in a long time I've looked at his like play rate, and it is the lowest in league right now, or for AD carries. Which is
It's crazy for him. Like that never happens.
Because usually
Yeah, I don't
he's
think it's
like
ever
top
happened
5 always or whatever. He's like a Lucian. He's fun to play.
He's like Lee Sin. He's like the Lee Sin of AD carries, or was for the longest time, because everyone would say, "Oh, I know how to default to this, if anything," and now he's not.
And now Tristana is 20 times more popular than Ezreal as an AD carry. So things.
Tristana has the Caitlyn syndrome right now, where remember how the long time Caitlyn was 50%, 52% win rate with a 20% play rate? That's Tristana now. Because
That's
Caitlyn
Tristana.
is
It's like Thresh earlier this season when it was absolutely crazy how good he was.
Orianna
And then they made it so that Flay wasn't stunning anymore, and look what happened.
right.
Good.
Well, since Dom decided to add this in here because he wanted to be quirky, Mirror Mana now correctly refunds 50% of the mana spent.
This is the only champion it affects.
It really does. And that's it. So there you
Well,
go. That's Mirror Mana.
So Freak pointed out that because Mirror Mana does damage based on how much mana you have, this is actually a little bit important because you're getting that mana back, which means you're actually doing a little bit more damage. And by you, I mean Ezreal, because he's the only one putting this.
I mean, it is some damage. I'll give it that, but what's the goddamn ratio on
It's
it?
just that this would be meaningful if it affected any other champion, but Ezreal is like literally the only champ building Mirror Mana right now. In most plays, yes, you're going to find the odd Jace tier, player or somebody who's holding on to the old ways of Urgot, but by and large, like Ezreal is the only one regularly building that item.
Correct.
Is that saying that it's refunding 50% of the mana you spend when the Mirror Mana passive gets procced? Because there's two parts of that. Because Mirror Mana refunds 15% of spent mana
that's
just in general.
passive. It's
No, I know, but there's also a portion of Mirror Mana specifically because Tier does this. They already refund mana.
So
But yeah, Mirror Mana consumes mana to deal damage.
That's
and then is it saying you're refunding them 15% of that mana as well, and it wasn't
all right,
before?
so here's how it goes, Cyril. So the first passive is Awe, and that it grants bonus attack damage equal to 2% max mana, and that's the one that refunds on spellcast. Awe is the one that consumes 3% current mana to deal 6% physical damage, or shock, whatever. And that's only greater if you have 20%, but that's not the refunding passive. They're two separate passives, so they're not connected.
Oh, okay. So there was just a bug there. It wasn't like a
So there was a bug
combo
with
situation.
the Awe
Okay.
passive where it wasn't refunding the 15% on spellcast correctly.
Okay, I thought there was something like the amount consumed by shock wasn't getting refunded by Awe.
No.
Okay. All right, whatever.
All right.
Let's go on.
Supports Ardent Censer, the item that has been defining some of the support meta right now, getting a change that, whatever. It's not like they didn't nerf the item into the ground, right? Attack speed steroid was 20 to 35%, now flat 25%. Health drain 20 to 35 on hit is now 25 on hit.
So I've been playing Sona bot a lot. Like that was my person who carried me through the last little bits of solo queue. And the number of people who've been rushing Ardent Censer has surprised me when I first started playing support again for a little bit, but this doesn't hurt those people. It actually buffs them a little bit.
No.
Are the numbers push it that you wouldn't get it that early?
You would have to get it by the time you're level 7.
I mean, Sona kills people.
Like that's the one
but
people
I'm
are actually getting it though, because they're skipping.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like you're getting it at about
I
level
agree.
7, and then it evens out and everything.
Yeah.
If you get it before you turn level 7, then yes, it is going to help you out a lot. That is an incredibly like rare and difficult thing to do.
And at that point, you're probably winning the game regardless of what you're building.
Because if you are not level 7, when you get this and everything, laning is probably well good and over, and you are super far behind. So it's like 20 minutes into the game, and you wish you had gotten this way earlier.
So,
Like that's kind of the conundrum there. If you get this super early, you're getting all the experience to have pushed you past the threshold anyway.
I just find it funny that they essentially reverted Censer back to what it was 7.2, except they tacked 5 to each number. Because it was 20 on hit and 20% attack speed on when they changed it on 7.2, and now it's just back to where it was, just a little bit stronger, and it's still a very good item.
The attack speed is equivalent to what an AD carry would get from a Blade of the Ruined King. And I'm just giving that context and everything because most supports are getting this at a stage of the game when AD carries aren't really focusing on getting themselves lifesteal or attack speed. So even though it doesn't scale the same way it used to at the stage when you are trying to get this item, this is still really, really helpful. Yeah, you're going to miss 10% later on, but you're like most AD carries are not going to notice that 10% because the reality is that most AD carries don't actually notice the Ardent Censer bonus. Adam?
Pretty much. Well, I told Dom earlier that I never noticed Ardent Censer, but I noticed like Lulu. Like if she put her W on your E or whatever the hell it is. Like
E.
That attack speed buff, but I also mentioned that I haven't been playing nearly as much as I did around when the time she was powerful, so that's likely why I didn't notice that Ardent Censer was being put on me.
So something that I think is kind of interesting here is that like Ardent Censer was almost objectively good. Like Ardent Censer champions were just good all the time in the last like couple patches, and what this does is it makes it look like, okay, we're pushing it so that the people who I know that like it's pretty unreliable to get it that early, but like it's greater early, and then we've nerfed the part where a champion could buy it any time and it'd be efficient for when you bought it. Like if you bought this like as a 6th item, you've pretty much wasted the whole potential of it. But like I don't know how this like affects, like does it make it like bring it back down to earth? Like I'm not sure if this is going to make it so that the casters that have been using it or abusing it for a couple patches now are going to not fall out of favor.
A 25%
probably
steroid
does
on
is
somebody. Sorry, Todd. 25% attack speed steroid with lifesteal is good enough to pick up early for support that this doesn't knock this out of anyone's hands, because by the time that the support is buying this, especially if the support is rushing it, the AD carry likely has Infinity Edge, and so attacking on 25% attack speed with the extra percent chance to crit gives AD carries that push that they need. So much for LoL AD carries in 2017 memes. It's now LoL AD carries are amazing in 2017. Thanks, Ardent Censer.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody, other 8 characters in the game.
They just need the support to do it.
It's slightly less of a meta warping item because we were starting to see some really weird things just because Ardent Censer was really good. We were seeing like I think it was LPL today or one of the other leagues, they had Stoneborn Pact Talia with Ardent Censer Rush. So I think we're going to see less of like those weird wonky things, and it's going to kind of settle back down to like, all right, Lulu, Janna, Sona, get your Ardent Censers, but you're not going to see it on these rando supports that just proc it off Stoneborn Pact. Yeah,
I saw it. I saw one of the games. Oh, I think it was one of the Challenger games or one of the playoff games here, where Orianna even picked apart a Censer late in the game.
Why not? You got a shield.
Yeah, because she had the shield and she's able to move it around, so she's able to give people attack speed. Like, why not? She already had all you needed Orianna for, really, was for the ultimate. Everybody else is doing the damage.
Yeah, it's still super strong, and really, unless you're a really good Thresh player, it's hard to say, man, just go play your AP supports and kill people. It's like, just play Janna and shield people. Or Or in this case, Lulu. Lulu's back to being like a super popular champion again because Janna's always
really
banned.
good.
They need
Part
to
of it
nerf
is like
shields.
Lulu's. They do. I mean,
yeah, they do.
but I've been saying this since fucking, middle of last season, and definitely when I came back on the show. I mean, there's a problem with shields at this point.
They just
I know
need,
it's something they're looking at for preseason as some way to like disrupt shields or like cut shields down or something. But
just
we'll
change
see
how
if that comes.
mitigation works with a shield that you gain from somebody else. Like if you have your own shield, you can keep your mitigation that you previously had. But if you gain a shield from somebody else, you shouldn't keep all that.
Shields already scale with ability power. Why are we giving them their own additional like scaling type stat?
Just
not?
get an ohm wrecker for shields.
Remove all shields like a master.
Just
That's
Ohm
actually like an
wrecker
it's an EMP. You just drop an EMP and shields drop and don't work for a little
I would
bit of
love
time.
it if there's a room.
Nobody would ever buy Locket again.
No, yeah, agreed. But it's at least it's counterplay. It's Skulking
What
Geist if you play Hearthstone.
I actually think that idea is really good as long as it didn't remove shields that were already out. It just prevented new ones from being cast. So you'd have to use it like preemptively and then go in. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to commit to it.
That could be cool. Toss the grenade out ahead of you and then run in. You're a
Yeah.
Garen player, so you'd love that.
Yeah, dude,
this-
it'd be so sick. I'd love it.
This is when they can do something. This is when they could have made Ornn even more cool with his upgrades. Like he could have upgraded Redemption and then changed Redemption's passives no longer heals, but it now disrupts shields. But he's not really into magic.
He would be picker
I mean-
of ban though if he was the only counter to the shield meta.
Sure.
Yeah, he'd be banned every game.
Even if he was nerfed to like nothing, if that item still existed.
He'd just be picked. Just stand in base.
See also Galio.
Oh my god.
Well, let's talk about Leona. We've spent enough time on Ardent Censer. Leona passive Sunlight. The mark duration was 3.5 seconds. It's now down to 1.5 seconds. The damage has been increased to compensate. It was 20 to 105, and it's now 25 to 144. And as well, Q, the Shield of Daybreak. The cooldown was scaling with rank. Is now a flat 6 seconds.
So that's the really nice change here.
I was really impressed by this today. In that same solo queue game, I had a Leona who was like roaming support with mobility boots, and the Garen E proccing the sunlight passive. It was like insane how much damage the passive was actually doing. She actually got the kills like a lot of the time.
Oh, she's getting the kills for that? I thought she wasn't supposed
Well,
to.
no,
thought,
I guess
like-
I don't think that she does, but like I couldn't judge my damage around her, so she
Oh,
would, like,
okay.
she would pick up kills like with her Q because she has it so much more often in those early fights. Because like you're getting people down a lot faster. I don't know, like I just couldn't judge the damage. It was a lot.
The Q change is the really nice one because Leona like desperately needed a 1-point wonder ability because she previously she wanted to put ranks into all of her abilities. You couldn't ignore W because she's always going so deep into fights that she needed the durability stats. And that meant you were stuck in this weird position of either choosing to get your stun up and have that available more regularly, or choosing the dive ability and the snare just so you could get into the fight and attach to the target that you wanted to. So like this cooldown is a really, really important thing. And like if you're laning against a Leona at this point, you just need to like she'll use her Q like maybe even to kill a ward or something. Just assume it's going to be available if you're trying to engage on her. There's not a window anymore.
She gets a little bit better.
I like
She was
these
already
changes quite a
strong
bit.
into a couple matchups from the support players I've talked to. She was picked as like a Bard counter pick and a Sona soft counter, just because of how those lanes play out. If you ever get on Bard, Bard just dies. But I'm looking at this and I'm wondering, is she still down there because she still has no way to get out? Like you look at Rakan, who just goes in, kind of does what Leona does, and then gets out scot-free. Or Alistar, who just innately has his ult passive, or ult active, whatever it's called, his damage mitigation. And she only has her W resistances.
Now
I
she
think
has something that makes
the
her
reduced-
threatening.
The
Yeah.
reduced stun cooldown should give her like an exit too, right? Like, so and I'm thinking like characters who have a short cooldown ability like that, maybe they engage with, but then they can also use it to get back out. Like Garen Q is similar, like it's his engage, but I mean instead of move speed and a silence, it's just a stun. But
It might be because you're getting what? You'll have, by the time you start team fighting, you have what, 20-30% CDR on her? which makes the Q like a 4-second cooldown. So I could see it, but usually it's like Alt EQ, and then you get blown up.
Well,
She's
you got something where like Alistar has had he has disjunct cooldowns on his Q and W, if I remember correctly. Like by a couple seconds, but not by a ton.
Mhm.
And Leona prior to this had 13 and 9 for her E and Q respectively, and each ability rank dropped that by 1 second. And now you don't have to choose. Like you don't have do I want to get closer more or stun more, which I guess is kind of the same thing with Alistar, except his is a bit more AoE with his Q.
So your third team will be 8 and 6. I just want to point that out.
Yeah.
Well, 9 and 6.
Or 9 and 6.
Yeah, it's 4. You get 4 ranks after rank 1, but yeah, you get 9 and 6.
Well, I know that. I just thought. Never mind.
You have rank 6
Unless you're playing Jace.
True.
So as far as her damage goes and everything, Santana kind of outlined a combo. It will be really difficult to get more than 2 procs of the passive on there. In a lot of cases, I think she's really only going to apply the passive and have it see meaningful gains on one target. She's only going to get 1 application of that and everything. And that's maybe we'll see some more skill expression, they like to call it, in getting that damage off and everything. But the bigger thing is that I think she's now kind of the premier single target lockdown champion, at least out of supports. Which sort of goes contrary to her nature of wanting to dive into fights and everything. But no, I don't think there's a support out there who's going to do a better job of locking down one single target as reliably as Leona does going forward.
Blitzcrank.
They're not going to lock them down as reliably.
Blitzcrank
Leona's
you're
cute.
Dead unless you have flash or you're really quick on Ezreal.
That's a pick. I'm talking a diver, like somebody's charging it at an 80 carry. Blitzcrank has 2 abilities and then they're on a really long cooldown. Leona is going to keep stunning and keep stunning and keep stunning and keep stunning.
I think
just
Thresh
that one
can
target.
match.
Can't do anything else.
I think Thresh can match because his box wall is pretty nasty. Just because of you either have to break it and then go back out that same way, or you have to choose to keep running through another one.
Yeah.
I'd say Thresh is similar, but he probably takes more skill to pull it off.
Well, you also have Leona can target a back line with both her ult and her E moves you to the furthest target you hit, not the closest one, like Thresh and Blitzcrank would. So I like Dom's point there. There's more expression there, but it's very as you said, if you get in there, you better win the fight because you did it.
It's definitely, it's not necessarily something that fits into every single team comp. And I think Thresh and Blitzcrank are much better rounded champions in that regard and everything. But Leona does have a specific thing she does really, really well, and I think she does it better than most. Even just that one single target peel. Anybody diving down an 80 carry is going to have a really hard time getting past Leona and ever getting to a target. But that assumes Leona's not diving.
True. I think again, buffs help champions, and we're seeing a little bit of a nerf on Ardent Censer. So she should, in theory, she should go up a little bit in win rate and a little bit in play rate, just because people see buffs and they're just I'm going to play this champion now. I still think she's C tier, not. She's definitely better, that's for sure.
Well, let's talk about the bug fixes that happened in this patch that need to be talked about. Blade of the Ruin King no longer causes Black Cleaver to apply 2 stacks per basic attack.
I swear they fixed this a patch ago, but I guess they didn't.
I feel like I've heard it too. Redemption's active is now correctly amplified by its own 10% heal and shield power passive while the casting champion is dead.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's definitely helpful.
Right.
Good, working as intended now, as opposed to...
Ilawi's W no longer does additional damage on crits when she dashes. But was Ilawi...
So for all you IE Ilawi users, unfortunate.
That's what was doing you in, Punch.
There's gotta be one, dude.
No,
you know what? I was thinking about this, and if anything, it's
just you're the only Trinity Force Garen.
It's probably Phantom Dancer, which is probably what she was building. And I was like, oh, that makes sense, I guess.
And probably the biggest one out of this patch is Malzahar's passive now correctly blocks Fizz's R.
So I was actually listening to Skara on this. What used to happen is you would pick Fizz in the Malzahar, because Fizz would ult. His passive wouldn't stop his ult from latching onto you, but it marks you as in combat, so it drops your passive shield and then knocks you up. Now, Chum the Waters doesn't latch on at all if you have passive shield up on Malzahar, which is a pretty big deal in what was a pretty easy counter matchup for Fizz.
It should work that way, though.
That's how it should work, yeah.
It's a complete total magic shield. You shouldn't. You should be able to block whatever.
It is weird to think that Fizz was a counter to Malzahar. That does
Right?
not. That's not obvious.
Fizz. Well, not quite. Yeah.
So that's it.
That was our patch, our tiny patch that we spent 50 minutes on.
I figured. This is what happens when you get all you
did
guys
it.
together, because you fuckers talk about everything for 20 minutes. You guys talked about Leona, which doesn't fucking matter.
Hey, she matters to someone.
Actually, it does
okay?
matter. The Leona buffs actually do matter. I should really talk about like something. I don't know. I don't remember what else you guys talked about, but you
Gargoyle Stoneplate.
Gargoyle Stoneplate.
that one. There we go. Yes, that
Cinderella
one. That's a
interaction.
very good one.
Gargoyle time waste plate.
That's what it does in game. So, yep, we matched it.
Well, so yeah, let's leave it at that. I think that is the end of the episode then. So I got nothing else other than tune in.
Here, I thought we were gonna get the listener questions.
Nah, I wouldn't have even done them if we got there. I would just let the patch. I don't like throwing listener
Over
questions.
it.
I just don't like throwing listener
Adam
questions.
hates listener questions.
Wow, that was
Heard
really
it here
loud.
first, folks.
Jesus Christ. I like listener questions. I don't like throwing listener questions at the end of a patch note episode because it seems kind of janky, right? Because maybe the person who wrote the question doesn't actually listen to patch notes episodes because they don't care about patch notes, but they do listen to all the other episodes.
If you're a listener that writes us listener questions and you also listen to patch notes, let us know at feedback@trinityforcepodcast.com.
Or check us out at patreon.com/TForce Network, where you can support the podcast and everything that we do. You can also check out our new webpage at trinityforcenetwork.com. And don't forget to check out our buddy Marine Revenge over at Marine Revenge on Twitch.
Yeah, it is twitch.tv/Marine Revenge. Oh, also, we got Garen Main's Discord. If you're a Garen main, that's a cool thing. I'm a part of that.
Yeah.
So
Or join us on our Discord, discord.com/
No, it's
something.
discord.trinityforcenetwork.com.
there we go. We don't have an official Discord link yet. I'll work on that.
Yes, please keep
We'll,
working.
we'll get partnered somehow.
I have
got-
a Discord link too, but it's like I can't tell you what it is. Just ask me for an invite. Get in the Trinity Force Discord. I'm in there, and then ask me for an invite to my Discord. Bam.
Exactly. Boom. Done.
We'll just funnel you in the Marines.
All the shills.
Yep.
For real.
Why not?
I got more, man. We got community game night every Tuesday night, too. And I picked up PlayerUnknown Battleground, so we're going to play that on Tuesday night, one night, all of us, whoever's
It's so
got it.
fun. It's so much fun.
I got my wife. I bought my wife the game, too. What's that?
I play.
You play
A
that
little
one?
bit.
Good.
PUBG is
Little bit.
wonderful.
We're going to throw a
Everyone plays
PUBG
that.
Trinity Force squad together, because I just got it for my wife, and I want you guys to hear my wife play a shooter, because it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, God.
Because she just goes
You know,
off.
she was on an Overwatch podcast, right?
Right. Yeah. No, she goes off. She gets Overwatching Call of Duty is probably worse because you're constantly respawning. This one I'm sure would be there'd be a string of explicits when she gets sniped from a building while trying to pick up a med pack or something.
Right? It's like middle of nowhere, and you just get down. It's like, what? All this time, and this is what happens. Great. Thanks, guys.
So frustrating.
Or you could just meet and accidentally team kill your own squad,
That's bannable. Careful.
It is
sounds
Those things happen.
Fun.
It's so
Excellent.
It's so much fun.
It really doesn't.
Sounds
matter.
like a good time.
All right, that's it. That's patch 7.17 or episode 467. Thank you guys for listening to the Trinity Force podcast, part of the Trinity Force Network. We will see you all on Monday. Have a good evening.
Later.
Peace.